Welcome back to another race day vlog. Before we actually jump in the race day vlog, I am in the process of hopefully about to start a new series regarding like the sale prep, like the before, the during, the after, blah 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 blah. My hopeful first video is hopefully next week, where I'm going to introduce you all to everyone that is going to the sale. I was hoping to have it out this week, but listen, have you ever like seen videos of like influencers in the wild, and like it's just the secondhand embarrassment of watching them film and talk in public? I can't deal with the secondhand embarrassment, let alone like just the initial embarrassment. And so every time I do my filming, it's always like in my car or like after hours when no one's around type situation. And unfortunately, I have not had enough after hours alone time to do the filming individually, and so it's taken longer than expected because I refuse to do it when people could potentially walk in and see me. Just socially awkward, can't do it. Honestly, it's just embarrassing, and it's also a little bit like I feel like it's weird in general. Just I don't know. I don't know. The whole vlogging thing, that's why it's always either just music in the background because it's a casual, like no one's gonna judge me taking a video of pretty ponies. It's the whole talking at the same time. I was not born to be a vlogger. Let me just say that. I get too socially awkward. Anyway, back to the race day vlog, as we were saying. That was just we are headed up to Belterra, and we are going to let Peach go a mile on the turf, which I know, when was it? I had mentioned the last time she ran on the turf that it was more than likely going to be her last time on the turf unless we potentially took her to Belterra, not Indiana. The reason why is she tends to handle Belterra's turf course better than Indiana. But after we had to kind of decided that we were going to keep her on the dirt. But she's kind of just been like a little bit like in a rut, and I say that in the meaning of like she's just been like fourth, third, second, and so we figured switching it up would be nice for her, and hopefully, you know, maybe it will spark a little something. And we know she can handle the turf, at least at Belterra. And there was also the thought process of, you know, if it does, for whatever reason, rain and come off the turf, then there's always a lot of horses scratch when they're like, oh, well, we're not going to run on the grass. There's no point unless they really need the race to run on the dirt. Anyway, so like we can run her on the dirt if it comes off because of rain or whatever. Actually, I was a little surprised it didn't come off the turf because anyway, so it did remain on the turf. It was a big field. It's a full 12 horses. I was like, oh man. It was a big field, so that sucked. I do gotta say, I think it was the 11 and 9, like when just as my paddock pics of like watching horses warm up, walk around out in the paddock, those were the two that I was like, these look fit, strong, ready to go type horses. I didn't really look too much into the actual like past performances because I was like, it's a huge field, I'm not doing it. But yeah, really just the goal is hopefully to see if she can get out of the rut. If not, move on to plan B, which is fine. She needed the race anyway. She's kind of just been sitting on go, ready. It's been like what, 7 weeks since her last race, so she's ready to go. They said she's been too bored, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. Anyway, mile on the turf, Belterra. Let's go.
And they're off. Away quickly from the outside, Hammer and Jammer jumps out for the lead. She's a keeper, runs right against the rail. We find Eastern Sunrise as they pass the stands for the first time. She's a keeper, shows away to the outside, Hammer and Jammer down against the rail. We have Eastern Sunrise setting up shop, perfect striking position. Now moving up to the outside. That's going to be Honeytown as they make the way into the first turn and grabbing a lead. That's She's a Keeper, leads by a length and a half. On the outside, Hammer and Jammer lays in second. Along the inside, Eastern Sunrise in a white cap. 2 lanes back, we got Lindsay's Shadow in the purple jacket. Down along the inside, Sono Devato. About 2 lanes back to Autism Compassion down against the rail in a peach in the green cap. And a peach is going to need to pick it up from there to the outside, Honeytown. And then about another length and a half back, we find Lucky Lesson, yet to be called on. Another 2 lengths back to Oh Pollyanna to the outside, split decision, and trailing the field, that is Subtle Senorita. Opening quarter on the board of 23 and 4, half in 47 and 4. And with the lead, She's a Keeper, leads by a length and a half as they come spinning out of the turn. She's a Keeper. Gabriel Laguna is looking for a hat trick on the day. To the outside, Eastern Sunrise. Moving out, Sono Devato is now on the move. Down against the rail, Hammer and Jammer. But shaking loose, She's a Keeper's 3 to the good. Laying in second, Eastern Sunrise trying to wheel him in with the lead. She's a Keeper outside Eastern Sunrise one final time, but She's a Keeper's going to hang on in the shadow of the wire.
All right, you've seen it play out. Let's watch it go. She's coming from the 5 hole. Like I said, this is a huge field. She breaks out pretty well here. Obviously, all the horses that are coming from the outside, they're going to try and get over and save ground, get closer to the rail. This is a new jockey, so he's never been on her before. She kind of settles right in the middle of the pack, nice and easy, which I would love to have her up a hair more, just like maybe into the next group. But, you know, she always kind of takes her spot and does what she does. I will say, she handled this turn very, very well. In past times, anytime she's on the turf, she can occasionally slip down a placing because she doesn't really handle the turns on the turf as well. Or at least at Indiana, she doesn't. Here, the ground's a little bit different. It's a little bit easier for her to stay in there. Anyway, if you've lost her, she's right here on the inside, green cap, closest to the rail, right behind the 6. So kind of toward the end of that first group, she's just kind of vibing. She makes a little bit of ground right here, so she is going up with the other one. They're just kind of nice and easy, sneaky, sneaky, sneaky. Anyway, like I said, this is a huge field. This is a lot of horses, and so there's always the risk of some traffic trouble. So being on the inside with these situations can be a little bit risky. Ideally, you kind of want to be able to tilt out to the outside to start making a move, and it shows right here where you can get some traffic trouble. They kind of try to tilt her to the outside. She had to check here quite a bit because there was just a wall of horses moving around her. She has to angle out to the far outside. She's in the green cap. It's a little bit easier to see. White silks, and then here she does what she likes to do, and then she is closing, just picks them off nice and easy, a little bit at a time. She had quite a bit of work to do. She had a lot of distance to make up, but she did close and actually finish very well. Like, this was actually not a bad race. So I know, in case you lost track of her, because it was a really big field, she did end up finishing 5th. And like I said, she actually didn't really bad at all. She handled the turf well. She handled everything fine. It was just when they came around that turn, he went to take her to the inside, but that gap closed. And so he wanted to re-angle her to the outside, but when he went to do that, there was also a group of horses coming in from the outside, and it closed off that other gap, and she had to check and wait a little bit before actually going around the whole wall of horses. So it would have benefited, essentially, if she could move a little bit earlier, but at the same time, you know, there's 11 other horses and jockeys on that field. It's not like they're all chit-chatting the whole time. They have their own job to do. They're all focused on doing what they need to do. It's racing luck. It is what it is. She ran fine. She closed very well. All that jazz. Ideally, and I've talked about this before, I like her when she can go longer. The issue definitely is there's not too many races written at a longer distance for the level she is at. And I've talked about this before, how I have a racing terminology video thing. I keep saying, I'm going to get it out for you. Editing is killing me, okay? Sitting to edit sometimes is just, it's a whole thing. I think I have time to finally freaking get it out. I have a whole week where I'm doing like bare minimum stuff, so I'm hoping that will be the week it happens. Anyway, but sometimes it's just hard to find the distance at the level without having to go too high up or too high down. So anyway, nothing. Anyway, so what is going to happen next? Ideally, we're probably going to see her maybe 3 to 6 weeks ish, give or take. I'm technically recording this fairly late. It's been a while. So I would say probably about 3 to 6 weeks we'll see her back, either dirt or turf. She could probably definitely be on both if it's at Belterra. We're probably not going to bother taking her back up to Indiana. We're probably just going to keep her at Belterra. There was a minor topic of conversation of potentially dropping her a class level because essentially, again, the level thing. I'm so sorry. I keep saying I'm going to do it, and I just busy. Essentially, we have a whole bunch of different levels in racing, and she has been racing, let's say, at this level, right? She won at this level, and we had kept her there, and she was doing okay, but she wasn't like doing lights out. We moved racetracks, right? And when we did that, the prices changed, and we had to go to this level when we did that. And she was doing okay. It wasn't really like, it wasn't, occasionally she'd pull a check. But when we switched back to the racetrack we're currently at, we moved her back to this level. And like, there's the option of going back down a level and seeing that the competition's hopefully a little bit easier. And maybe it will get her out of that little, she'll just, finally have that ability to stick her nose in front of the rest of the group, or just keep playing at this level. And I mean, she's pulling a check. So like, essentially she is contributing to her own bill. But look, won't lie, it's expensive keeping racehorses. It's expensive keeping horses in general. And so I typically, it really does depend who you're training with, your horses, where they're running, etc. If they can win at least once a year, that really does pay for a good chunk of their yearly bill. Not all of them. There's definitely some at like the lower levels where it's like, okay, you paid for a couple months. But typically, if they can at least win a race like right around the here mark, they're paying for a good chunk of their bills, and it really does help. And obviously right now I had to pay for all of this out of pocket. That was freaking expensive. So I definitely am like, I could really use the win money wise. There is someone had asked, I think it was in the last one, what is like the different prize monies like per placing. They do have it. If you ever look at a chart, it does have it listed of what the first place, second place, third place gets. It is a pretty big chunk difference between your first and second place. Second place, yes, it still pays, but essentially it's like, there's a difference. And also there's always the difference of, oh, well, if we run in Kentucky, my horses are Kentucky bred, so we get the added bonus, but we're currently running in Ohio because the only Kentucky bred stuff is in Ellis, and I don't want to drive 4 hours to Ellis. I don't think any of us want to drive 4 hours to Ellis. There's things of that nature. You get it? There's a lot of random technicalities involved that I feel like sometimes it's just natural backyard knowledge for us because we're so used to it that sometimes when I try to explain it to people, it's just like, the words just, I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, anyway, see her 3 to 4 weeks, probably at Belterra again, either dirt or turf. I wouldn't be overly surprised if we take her down a level slightly just to see if we can catch a little bit of a break. But I also wouldn't be surprised to just see her at the level. I would love if we could get her to go longer. If we could finally find a race to go longer. But yeah, anyway, next time out, Streaking is running next. I am not going to be going to that race in person, so I'm just going to be doing what I can from here. The reason why is just because she's going a mile on the turf, which is something we had talked about, but they're taking her all the way down to Ellis, and Ellis is like a 4-hour drive for me. And we actually talked about it. I was like, do I really want to drive 4 hours? So it's gonna be 4 hours there, 4 hours back. Answer was really kind of no. I don't mind driving to Indiana, which is like 2 hours. Ellis. So I'm probably it's my day off, and I have a lot of errands to run. it's just like, man. So yeah, I will be trying to figure out how I'm gonna, I know how I'm gonna do it. Don't let me lie to you. But she runs tomorrow. I don't know when you will see it. It's anyway. But so streaking is the one we have next. I wouldn't, and then if I'm assuming it's going to be Mikasa and then Peach again is the order that we will see these kids in. Anyway, now that I've rambled and probably have made no sense, I am going to finish cleaning my desk. Fabulous. Hopefully edit this and get ready to see streaking run tomorrow. Anyway, so till next time.